One flower in your yard could bring a tree down on your own driveway. Another one survived 2 full years buried under a tarp and came back anyway. I've gardened for 25 years, and I planted 3 of the flowers on this list myself. I'm ranking 10 of them, worst to absolute nightmare. But the very last one isn't even the flower I expected to put at number 1, and I'm not naming it yet. You'll have to stay to find out what it actually did. Here's why that matters. Every single flower on this list is sitting on a shelf at a nursery near you right now. You've probably already planted at least one. If you leave halfway through, you won't know which one, and you won't know what it's about to do to your yard, your trees, or your pets by next spring. So stop and watch this whole thing first. Drop your state in the comments. I want to know how many of you are already dealing with this. Number 10. Trumpet vine. We're starting the countdown with the plant gardeners who've actually fought it have nicknamed Hellvine. It sells itself in the nursery, bright orange and red trumpet flowers all summer, hummingbirds arriving within days. A reader in the Northeast described her neighbor's trumpet vine completely swallowing a shared utility pole. No metal visible at all by the time anyone intervened. The fix wasn't pretty, 3 feet of woody vine hacked off at the base just to slow it. Not stop it, slow it. Below ground, the roots are doing worse damage. This vine sends runners 10, 15, even 20 feet from the original planting before sending up a single new shoot, which means it surfaces in your lawn, a far bed, or your neighbor's yard with 0 warning in between. By the time you see the new shoot poking through the grass, the root that fed it has already been traveling underground for months, completely invisible, completely unstoppable. It grips too, aerial roots bored directly into siding, brick, and stucco like tiny claws looking for a foothold. Pull it off a painted fence and the paint comes away with it, peeling in long ragged strips, leaving bare wood behind that has to be repainted from scratch. On the safety side, University Extension sources note the sap can irritate skin in both people and pets, and the seed pods cause stomach upset if chewed. Zones 4 through 9. What I grow instead: coral honeysuckle, same zones, same red trumpet flowers and hummingbird traffic, minus the structural damage. That one took a fence and a power pole. The next plant on this list, I know personally, and it came with a story from one of you that I still think about. Number 9. Bishop's weed, goutweed. I fought this one myself, on my own property. And I want to tell you about it honestly before I share something even better. A story one of my own viewers told me after my last video. Bishop's weed is sold as the fix for that impossible dry, shady patch under your trees where nothing else survives. Year 1, it delivers exactly that. Clean and variegated, filling in fast. You'll feel like you finally won. You haven't. Here's the story. After my last video went up, a viewer wrote in and told me she and her husband planted 5 Bishop's weed starts behind their shed years ago. The plant did nothing back there, barely grew at all, so her husband eventually just pulled the 5 plants and tossed them into the edge of the woods behind their property, assuming that was the end of it. A few years later, she was walking through those same woods and stopped cold. A 10 by 10 foot patch of Bishop's weed, thick and established, growing wild where no garden had ever existed. Nobody had planted it there. It had never even touched cultivated soil intentionally. 5 discarded plants, thrown away to be forgotten, had quietly built an entire colony in the forest while nobody was watching. That's what we're dealing with. Bishop's weed spreads through underground rhizomes, and according to most state extension offices that track it, every single fragment left behind, even one the size of your fingernail, regrows into a brand new plant. In zones 4 through 9, this is one of the most reported I thought I was done with it plants on this entire list. What I grow instead: epimedium, also called barrenwort, same shade tolerance, delicate spring flowers, and the patience to actually stay where you put it. Zones 4 through 8. If you've got a story like that one, a plant that came back from somewhere you never even planted it, write it out in the comments below. I read every single one, and I'll be picking some of the best stories to feature with full credit in an upcoming video. If a plant that spreads from a discard pile in the woods didn't scare you, the next one: collapsed a pergola. Number 8. Wisteria. Quick question. How much does a vine actually weigh? Most people guess wrong, because a vine doesn't feel heavy when you're looking at flowers. Wisteria proves that wrong year after year on real properties. It sells on the photo, cascading purple clusters, a fragrance you can smell from the sidewalk. What the tag never says is what happens the other 49 weeks of the year. These vines constrict as they climb, wrapping tree trunks and pergola beams with a grip that physically tightens with age, the way a python tightens around its prey, except this grip never lets go and it never stops growing stronger. Arborist reports have documented established wisteria-girdling, mature hardwood trees left unchecked for a decade, choking off the flow of nutrients until entire limbs simply die from the inside out. The weight alone has collapsed pergolas that were never built to hold it, timber snapping under pressure that built up slowly enough nobody noticed until the moment it gave way. A commenter in the upper Midwest summed up her experience as years of root system warfare, woody runners almost impossible to remove, root sprouts surfacing seasons after the vine looks dead. The seeds and pods raise the stakes further. The ASPCA lists wisteria as toxic if ingested by dogs, cats, and children, causing serious nausea and vomiting. If pods are falling near where pets or grandkids play, that's worth watching closely. What I grow instead is on screen now. Same purple, same fragrance. A root system that actually behaves. So far, we've talked about beds and fences. This next one goes after your foundation. Number 7. Monkey grass, LIRIOPE spicata. Read the plant tag twice before you buy this one. Twice, there are two kinds sold under the same common name, and they are not the same plant. LIRIOPE muscari grows in neat, well-behaved clumps. Fine, LIRIOPE spicata is the runner, and one frustrated gardener put it about as bluntly as it can be put. It is the worst thing you could ever plant, and once even one piece is in the ground, you will never fully get rid of it. 7 state extension offices currently track LIRIOPE spicata as a confirmed invasive spreader: Tennessee, Georgia, North Carolina, Florida, Mississippi, Alabama, Virginia, and the list keeps growing. It spreads through underground rhizomes that push through soil and under sidewalks while looking completely harmless from above. A quiet green carpet sitting directly over a network that's already pushing past the edge of your property line while you water it and admire it. Ask for it by name at the nursery. Muscari, not spicata. In a pot, they look almost identical. LIRIOPE spicata, zones 4 through 10N, what I grow instead. Carex, zones 4 through 9.5 plants down. The next one fools people because it smells like something you'd want in your tea. Number 6. Lemon balm here is one that won't hurt your pets, but will absolutely take over your beds. It smells incredible. Crush one leaf and it's pure citrus. Makes a genuinely lovely calming tea. A commenter in North Carolina put it plainly, not necessarily beautiful, but a beneficial, good-smelling herb that has now taken over every single garden bed on her property. It's in the mint family, the same cousin neighborhood as peppermint, spearmint, and catnip. Less aggressive underground than true mint, I'll give it that, but it self-seeds heavily to make up for it. Plant it in an open bed, and by year 3, seedlings turn up everywhere downwind while roots push into every neighboring planting. Here's the good part. The ASPCA lists lemon balm as non-toxic and genuinely pet-safe, even used in some calming pet treats. This one's purely a spreading problem, not a danger problem. Lemon balm zones 4 through 9N, what I grow instead. Calamint, zones 5 through 7, or grow in a container off the soil we're halfway through the countdown. I promised you something darker earlier. Here's the first piece of it. Bonus warning, not part of the countdown. Lily of the Valley, I mentioned this at the very top of the video. This one isn't part of my countdown. Think of it as a free preview of how serious the rest of this list is about to get. Those delicate white bell-shaped flowers and that sweet fragrance are genuinely beautiful, and that's exactly the trap. A reader described planting a small patch under a large oak and watching it creep outward year after year, silent and unhurried, eventually growing straight through the roots of an established hosta 3 feet away, strangling it from below before a single leaf above ground showed any sign of trouble. It spreads through underground rhizomes called pips, forming a dense mat just beneath the surface, a hidden network you'd never know was there until you tried to dig something else up nearby and found pips tangled through everything. Zones 2 through 7. Here's why I'm flagging it separately. Every single part of this plant is toxic if ingested. The leaves, the stems, the flowers, even the small red berries that follow in late summer. It contains compounds that directly affect the heart, and according to ASPCA Animal Poison Control records, it's one of the more commonly reported ornamental plant exposures involving pets every spring. If you've got pets that spend unsupervised time outdoors, this one is worth taking seriously, not treating as a minor inconvenience. What I grow instead: foam flower, scientific name Tiarella cordifolia, zones 3 through 8, same shade tolerance and delicate white flower spikes, completely non-toxic. If you've already got this growing in your yard, did you know about the toxicity before today? Let me know in the comments. And stay with me, because that was only a preview. Quick removal strategy. Before we get back to the countdown, here's something you can actually use tonight. For rhizome spreaders like Bishop's Weed and Lily of the Valley, the smother method wins every time. Cut all top growth to the ground. Cover the entire bed with overlapping cardboard, 2 layers thick, edges overlapped by 6 to 8 inches. Soak it completely. Bury it under 6 inches of real wood chip mulch, not bark nuggets. Leave it sealed for a full 12 months, no peeking. For woody vines like trumpet vine and wisteria, cut the main stems at ground level in late summer, then immediately treat the fresh cut with a concentrated herbicide before it seals over. You've got about 30 seconds. Watch for root sprouts all season and cut every single one the moment it appears. Each sprout removed forces the root system to burn through energy it can't replace. The single biggest mistake gardeners make, according to several extension agents I've spoken with over the years, is quitting early. 2 weeks of effort, less visible growth, and people assume it's over. It isn't. Stay on it through one entire growing season, minimum. Before we get back to the countdown, I want you to do some quick math in your head. Think back over the last 3 years. How much have you spent at the garden center replacing something that died, or something that took over and had to be ripped out? How many weekends have you spent digging out a root system you never planned on fighting? For a lot of people watching this right now, that number is somewhere in the hundreds of dollars. For some of you, it's well over 1,000. And almost none of that had to be spent the way it was. Back to the countdown. Number 5, WEDELIA 1.5 acres. That's how much yard one reader lost to this single plant. Not a bed, not a slope. Her entire backyard gone, swallowed inch by inch until the lawn she remembered simply didn't exist anymore in Central Florida. It's sold as a fast, cheerful, drought-tolerant ground cover with bright yellow blooms nearly year-round, and it delivers on every word of that promise. Which is exactly the problem. 3 full years of concentrated, relentless effort on her hands and knees in Florida heat to bring her property back under control. The Florida Invasive Species Council currently lists WEDELIA as a Category 2 invasive across all regions of the state, forming dense mats that crowd out the native plants local pollinators depend on. If you're not in a warm climate, you may not have run into this yet. Along the Gulf Coast and across Florida, you almost certainly have. WEDELIA zones 9 through 11 nth, what I grow instead, beach sunflower, zones 8 through 11, that's an entire property lost to one ground cover. And we're not even at the scary part yet. Number 4 earned a 1-word review from a Kansas gardener I haven't been able to stop thinking about. Number 4, BUGLEWEED, AJUGA 2 words. That's the entire review one gardener gave this plant, running amok. Sold under prettier names like Bronze Beauty and Black Scallop, BUGLEWEED is marketed as a shade-loving ground cover with gorgeous bronze purple foliage and blue flower spikes every spring. Genuinely beautiful in the photo. Exactly why it's one of the most commonly planted ground covers among gardeners over 50. It spreads through stolons, horizontal runners that root wherever they touch bare soil. By year 3, those runners cross the bed boundary into your lawn, forming a mat that resists most lawn-safe herbicides without damaging the grass around it. Multiple Midwest and Northeast Extension offices list it as aggressive or invasive in mixed landscapes. AJUGA zones 3 through 9 in what I grow instead, foam flower or creeping phlox, zones 3 through 9, 3 plants left. Number 3 earned the most pointed comment section I've ever read on this channel, and before we get there, I want to know something from you. Number 3. Creeping Charlie 1 Kansas gardener gave this plant the single most unfiltered review I've ever received. The most evil ground cover ever. Creeping Charlie, also called ground ivy, isn't usually planted on purpose anymore. It arrives uninvited and takes over before anyone notices, slipping in along a fence line or hitching a ride in a bag of mulch. It spreads two ways at once, through creeping stems that root at every node and through seed, attacking your lawn from two directions simultaneously, a pincer movement most homeowners don't even realize is happening until half the yard has already changed color. It tolerates shade, sun, wet soil, and dry soil equally well, which is exactly why nothing outcompetes it easily. Zones 3 through 9. Here's the genuinely frustrating part. Once established, it forms a mat low enough to survive regular mowing, so your normal weekly lawn care isn't controlling it. It's actively helping it spread. On safety, agricultural extension sources note Creeping Charlie is documented as toxic to horses in larger quantities, with mild stomach upset possible in dogs and cats who graze on it. What I grow instead? Golden ragwort, a native ground cover that actually outcompetes weeds like this one while supporting early season pollinators, zones 3 through 8. 2 plants left, and number 2 is the comment that proved most of you have already made the same mistake I did. Number 2. Morning Glory's comment on this exact topic got more agreement from other viewers than almost anything I've ever posted. It was simple, you might as well plant bindweed. Here's the confusion that catches people off guard. There are 2 completely different plants both casually called Morning Glory, the cultivated kind with big blue or purple flowers you buy on purpose, and field bindweed, a wild relative with smaller white or pink flowers that shows up uninvited and twines around everything. The leaves differ in shape if you know what to look for, but by the time most people notice, both are already established side by side. Morning Glory is a relentless self-seeder. One mature plant can drop hundreds of seeds in a season, and university trials have found those seeds can lie dormant in soil for over a decade before germinating, sitting silently underground through years of normal gardening, waiting for the exact right conditions to wake up. You clear a bed completely, feel proud of it, plant something new, and 3 years later it's back, pushing up through the middle of whatever you planted there instead. Because you weren't fighting a plant, you were fighting a seed bank you buried yourself without ever knowing it was there. Grown as an annual in most zones, though it reseeds aggressively enough to behave like a perennial almost anywhere. What I grow instead, black-eyed Susan Vine, climbs just as fast and blooms just as cheerfully with no seed bank lying in wait to ambush you years later. That's number 2. Now stay with me for number 1 because it's the entire reason I made this video. Number 1. English ivy. I told you at the very beginning that the worst plant on this list nearly cost someone everything. Here it is. It's sold at literally every garden center in America as the universal answer to a shaded slope, a dry bank, that stubborn patch where grass refuses to grow. Cheap, everywhere, and for the entire first year, it does exactly what's promised. Lush, full, completely under control. One viewer wrote me the story that made me put this plant at number 1. She'd been dealing with a debilitating illness and an old back injury, years where physical labor simply wasn't possible. During that exact window, English ivy that a previous owner had planted around a shared mailbox post spread, on its own, through the wooden fence boards and underneath the ground, straight into her yard. She never planted a single piece of it. By the time she was physically able to fight back, it had taken over her entire front yard, tangled together with blackberry brambles a bird had seeded in. It took her 3 weeks, working several hours every single day, just to clear it. 3 weeks. 3 weeks of daily labor for a plant she never chose to grow. Here's what nobody at the register explains while that's happening. English ivy doesn't just spread along the ground, it climbs. The moment it reaches a tree trunk, it shifts into an adult growth phase and starts producing berries that birds carry deep into nearby woods, spreading the same damage into ecosystems you'll never see. And on a mature tree, the climbing itself becomes a real structural threat. A heavy, established ivy infestation can add several hundred pounds of extra foliage and moisture to a single tree's canopy. That weight dramatically increases wind resistance and ice loading in a storm. Arborists have documented healthy ivy-covered trees losing major limbs or coming down entirely in storms that nearly identical ivy-free trees on the same street survived without a scratch. Underneath the bark, it's worse. The damp, dark microclimate ivy invites wood-boring insects and rot, quietly weakening the tree from the inside, completely invisible from the ground while it happens. That's the part that should genuinely concern you. You don't have to plant this one for it to become a real physical risk over your own driveway, your roof, or anywhere people park and walk. A storm doesn't care whether you bought the ivy or simply inherited it from whoever lived there before you, the way that viewer did. On top of all of that, the AJUGA also lists English ivy as toxic to dogs and cats if chewed or ingested, causing drooling, vomiting, and stomach upset. Zones 4 through 9. What I grow instead, native Pachysandra, zones 4 through 8, or wild ginger, zones 4 through 7. Both stay exactly where you plant them, both genuinely support birds and pollinators. And neither one is quietly building weight over the trees holding up your property. If you've got mature trees with ivy climbing the trunk right now, that's worth a serious look before the next storm rolls through, not after it. 10 flowers, counted down, plus 1 bonus warning, 11 honest mistakes in total, and one of them quietly building weight over someone's head right now without a single warning label. Before you plant anything new, ask 3 things. Does it spread by underground runners? What would it cost to remove if it goes wrong? And is it safe for the people, pets, and property around it? Check the USTA plant database, free and searchable by state, before you buy. If this saved you from even one mistake, subscribe, and if someone you know has ivy climbing a tree near their driveway, send them this video today. Which of these did you already have, and which one genuinely surprised you? I'll see you in the next one.